Welcome to the Strong Enough Podcast, your relationship wellness podcast. I'm your host, Claudia. Today's guest is going to share with us how childhood trauma affected his future relationships. However, he was able to break the cycle of abuse and set boundaries so that he can be happier and healthier. Please help me in welcoming Jason Tieri. Jason, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
I am well. Thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to having a chat with you.
I am looking forward to it as well. I want to say I already love your voice. You have that broadcaster voice, and I know you have some podcasts of your own, and we will talk about those. I would like to start, though, with you telling us a little bit about Jason.
So I am a young 45. I do not feel that, as I'm currently training for a half marathon and realizing, I'm old. I can't do what I used to do. I ran a bunch of them 10 years ago when I was 35, and I'm like, I can do this again. So I'm experiencing that. I'm 45, married with 3 children. I do lawn fertilization for work. So I'm a lawn tech, as they will. I've been doing that for 20 years. So in the summer or the March through November, I do that. And then in the winter, I kind of do whatever. And currently, since the gig economy has exploded, I do that. So like Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, Amazon, all that fun stuff like that. So that's about me. I have 2 podcasts and a production company, and I'm just busy with family and work and hobbies.
I want to talk a moment about your half marathon because I just ran a half marathon myself.
Well, congratulations. How did it go?
I finished and I did not die.
Yes.
I did not finish last, which was a concern of mine.
Was it?
Well, so I used to be a runner, but I failed to train for this particular event. Life sort of just caught up with me and I was really busy. And like 2 weeks before, I was like, wow, I have to run this half marathon. And the reason I had to run it is because I was raising money for charity. So I couldn't just dip out and not do it. But I believe in you, because if I could finish it with literally almost zero training, I have faith in you to knock this out and crush it.
Well, I have been training, but I'm dealing with some nagging injuries because, running is one of those things where when you're young, you can kind of pick it up and just kind of go with a little bit of training, and you don't really have, but when you're in your 45, you got to like strengthen all those other muscles, like your hip flexors and all that. And that's what I'm running into. So definitely will not be my fastest half marathon, but I will be competitive with myself. So I'm looking forward to that.
I love that. And that's kind of what I had to do for myself. I wanted to break 3 hours, which I know is not really anything to write home about. But I finished in 2:38 without dying. And I did have a friend cycling around the course in case I was close to last. I was going to have her
Here, get on the bike.
do something, or Tanya Harding somebody, or I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know, but I was prepared in many different ways to make it through.
You were prepared in so many different ways, yet not training.
Right. Because that would have made so much sense.
Right.
How long have you been a runner?
I ran sprints in high school. Like I was a pretty good sprinter. I mean, I went to the state championships, never placed, but to make it to state, that's pretty good. But yeah, and I used to swim in high school and all that stuff. But I was training. This half marathon kind of came about because I was training for a Tough Mudder. Do you know what a Tough Mudder is?
I do.
Okay. So back in 2012, I did a Tough Mudder, and then I got lazy and fat. Like for a decade, I just kind of, I don't know what happened. A lot of mental health stuff, and I'm sure we'll get into that. But a buddy of mine was like, we just started talking about Tough Mudders in February. He's like, I'm doing it. And he was 350 pounds. He is now 295 pounds.
Good for him.
Since February. I know. So we're training for this Tough Mudder. And then I I got COVID the week of the race, and I couldn't do it. And so I had been running off and on because the Tough Mudder, the one we were doing, was 10 miles with 25 obstacles. So I had been running. I'm like, I got to do something because I felt like crap. I mean, even if I didn't feel like crap, I wouldn't have gone because I had COVID. But of course, I went to a podcast conference and did not mask up because I was vaccinated and it wasn't mandatory. And sure as shit, I got COVID and it sucked. And I'm glad I was vaccinated because it wasn't as bad. But so that's how I got back into the half marathon. I wasn't planning on doing it, but kind of had to do something after all that training.
Well, cool. Well, I'm excited for you, and I'm excited to hear how it goes.
All right.
What got you into running when you were younger?
I don't know. I'm short and stocky, and I was just fast. There wasn't any particular reason. My high school did not have football. I went to a private school. They do now, of course, like 3 years after I graduated in 94. They started having football. I'm like, I would have played football just because I don't know. I'm not a huge sports fan, but football's just fun. And I knew I could be good at it because I'm fast and I was quick. But anyway, so I played, I was terrible at basketball. I ended up doing just non-contact sports, swimming and track. And so, yeah, that's, I don't know what drew me to it, but I loved it. But I don't know why well, you can't really run sprints as an adult. I mean, you're not going down to the local track with, 10 people and say, let's run 100-yard dash.
Line up, everybody. Let's do this.
Let's do that. So
good point. We need that. We need that back as adults.
Yes. I would love to do that. I would much rather run 100 yards than 13.1 miles.
I was an 800 runner, and I would much rather knock that out than 13 miles. So let's.
That's a strategy race.
Yes.
So like the 400 is a sprint and you throw up at the end. The 800, you got to it's 2 laps. So you got to kind of play a mental game and see what everyone else is doing. But that's a fun race.
I agree. So first order of business when we're done here is we got to get shorter distances back for adults. I'm in this with you, Jason. I don't know how we're going to make it happen, but we're going to make it happen.
Verbal trademark on whatever we decide.
Exactly. Love it. Well, you mentioned some mental health challenges. So I do want to talk about that, but I want to back up a little bit further to when you were younger. I know that you experienced a difficult childhood, and I was wondering if you would be willing to talk about that.
For sure. Yeah, I grew up in a Christian home and with 2 sisters and me, and then my mom and dad. And we went to church every Sunday, went to Christian school. But in the meantime, my mom kicked the shit out of us like all the time. And it was rough. It was really rough. And there's so much to unpack. I don't want to go too long into it. But my mom was abused. My grandmother was a psychopath. I mean, she would try to kill herself in front of my mom. And my mom had 5 sisters, so 6 girls in one little house. Yeah.
That's a lot.
I know, right? And so, well, I do blame my mother because she was an adult and made choices just like I did, like everyone does. But I do give her a little bit of grace for what she experienced because she didn't have anyone to, I don't know, make her not do what she did. So that went on off and on, a lot of abuse until I was strong enough, basically until I was about 13. And I hit puberty real early. I was 5'7" in 8th grade and I'm still 5'7". So added some poundage to that, but so I was able to stop it really early on, and I don't have a ton of memory from it. It's so weird, right? Like your brain kind of protects you a little bit. So, but my sisters were physically abused too, but a lot of mental, or emotional abuse of, you're not good enough and you're ugly and Yeah, so it was tough. And then I had a dad that just stuck his head in the sand. Never was really there to stop it, those kind of things. Yeah, one of those. Well, I tried to stop it when I was there, but it just, you know what I mean? It's just like, it's probably a typical home like that, where one of is the abuser and the other one's kind of like, I wasn't around, or I didn't see it very much, or I tried to stop it when it happened in front of me. But meanwhile, that didn't happen very often.
What did that do as far as forming your beliefs about love?
Ooh, that's a good question. As far as love goes, like I've never, other than my current wife, and that sounds funny when you say current wife, right? Because I have been married and divorced. So when you say current wife, it almost like puts a timestamp on it, but that's not the plan. So other than my current wife, I never had any woman in my life, even some girlfriends, my ex-wife, obviously my mother, that was a role model and could show me what love is from a female. You know what I mean? In a kind way. So I don't know. I don't know exactly how to answer that as far as the love part of it, but yeah, there was definitely, I don't know. I feel like I'm super kind though. So, I mean, I have that in me, but maybe it's that intimate part that I struggle with love, as far as like that emotional connection. But yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
You said that your mother experienced the same thing from her mother.
Mm-hmm.
What in you allowed you to break that cycle of violence? Because we do see it a lot, where it does travel through generations, because that's what people saw. That's what they identified as love. And so they continue that pattern. What allowed you to not do that?
You know, I wish I had a secret that said, you know, that I could say that what I did helped, but I think the grace of God. I'll be honest with you. I've not been the perfect dad. I've never abused my kids, but I've said some things that they might need some therapy for. And I'm working on it. I'll be honest. Like it's, you know, I had a son real early with my ex at 19. So, I mean, here I am just out of high school and had a kid. And like, I was nuts. Like I had no business being in any relationship. And so, you know, he's probably going to need some therapy from some of the things that maybe I did in front of him when I was fighting with his mom and those kind of things. But I honestly think it was the grace of God. I mean, I'm not sure if you're religious or not, but I have faith. I am a Christian and struggling Christian right now. I'm not going to lie. But, you know, I think that's what did it. I don't have any tip or trick, and I wish I could give that to people. It's tough, man. It is tough when that's all you know is screaming and hitting and those kind of things. It's tough.
Was that ever a part of your previous marriage from your ex-wife? Was that an abusive relationship as well?
It was physically abusive. We both were. I mean, I was, I don't know. I don't want to say I was crazy, because I try not to say that, but I was like out of control. I didn't know anything. I had no tools. And I had a kid. Oh, by the way, my parents never talked to me about sex either. So that's a big thing. If I could tell anyone out there, I don't care how awkward it is, just talk to your kids about sex. Like, yes, it's an intimate thing and it feels weird and whatever, but it's like, please talk to your kids about sex. Just, yeah, that was a rough thing. I came into pornography real early too, when I was real young. I mean, it was a shit show. So I'm not saying that's why I had a kid, but I mean, you know, I knew what I was doing at 19. Don't get me wrong. Like, I know how babies are made, but I mean, it's just like, it was just one thing after another. So yeah, we we actually had my older son. And then 2 years later, we got married because, I was going to do the right Christian thing and marry her. And then it just got worse and worse. And so, yeah, we were physically abusive to each other. I did get arrested for that once for domestic violence. And she should have gone too. But, it is what it is. But yeah, I got out of that relationship, and that was a good thing. It was a tough divorce, tough child arrangement. All of that is tough. I am so glad I don't have to deal with her again. Probably just a wedding. It's not been planned yet, but I mean, I'm sure, unless my son elopes, which he probably will, because he probably doesn't want me and his mom in the same room together. So, yeah.
So maybe he will do everyone a favor and just run off and elope, and you won't have to worry about it.
He's been with his girlfriend. They have a house together. I mean, come on. They've been together for 5 years. I don't know. I secretly want him to get married and have this huge shindig, because like when my wife and I got married, not my ex, but my current wife, it was just an incredible party. It was so fun and having friends around and stuff. So I kind of want him to do it so he can be part of that, but I also know he's probably not going to do that.
I mean, just 2 more years and he'll be common law. So
I know. And he's 25 in December. He's made it 6 years longer than I had before he had a kid too. So I mean, I am just winning over here.
Knocking it out of the ballpark.
Right.
Love it. Tell me about the difference in that first marriage and then your wife now, and kind of how you transition, because you're obviously a different person now than you were. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I'm different now. I'll start with that. I'm different now because A, I'm 45 and older. B, I've been going to therapy for 10 years. So that's helped a ton. So when we got together, she was 21. So she's 6 years younger than me. And, weirdly, and I've talked to her about this before, like at the time I was looking for someone kind and that would be a good mother for my son. And I know she's like, what, you weren't attracted to me? I'm like, of course. I mean, it wouldn't work if that wasn't there either. I mean, so she kind of teases me about that a little bit, but so yeah, I was looking for that. And so this month will be our 15-year wedding anniversary. And those first like 5 to 7 years were okay, but they were okay because she took care of me. Now, was it the healthiest thing for her to do, for her to like just not take care of her needs? She was just kind of a helper that's how she is. And while that's good, she kind of put her needs to the side. So she's actually in therapy right now too, working on that to try to, be more outspoken and stuff. So she pretty much saved me. She picked me up from my pile of crap. And now I had a couple of girlfriends in between my ex and her, and those weren't great either. And just a shit show of bad relationships and bad decisions. And I don't know, God was like, okay, that's enough. You've earned that badge of shittiness. It's time for you to save you a little bit. And I believe my wife saved me. And now we are both in therapy. We're going to therapy together because her and I have struggled off and on as far as just connection. But no abuse, no, nothing like that. None of that stuff. So that's been great.
I want to talk a little bit about therapy, not in a therapist way. I'm not going to have you lay on the couch or anything, but as a man, how difficult, if at all, was it for you to get into therapy? Because there is such a stigma, especially you said you'd been in therapy about 10 years. Yeah. So really then there was a big stigma around mental health, and particularly with men and being mentally strong. So was that ever an issue for you, either internally or externally?
Surprisingly, the one thing my mom did do is She actually went to therapy, surprisingly, probably right around when I was maybe 14 or 15, tried to drag us into, and we did go in. And so she was trying to get her crap straight. I don't think she ever did. She's still alive. There's some added story to my family life that I don't know when is a good time to add, but I'd like to add that recently came out in the last year. So it's kind of shocking, but currently she has dementia and is an inpatient facility. And so I forgot the question. I'm terrible. You can cut that out. Oh my gosh. When I start talking about this, therapy. Therapy. Yes, I got it.
I'm totally not going to cut it out because I love the realness. I know when
I get into that deep stuff, I just get sidetracked. So yeah, the stigma around therapy. So I don't think I ever had that. I never walked around and said, I'm fine. I think I walked around and said, I'm messed up. But it did take a while for me to really sit down and be like, okay, I want to fix this. So it's been a hard 10 years of therapy, but before that was like off and on, right? Like, I'll go. And it's like, if you're not ready, it's not going to work. Like you can force people into therapy, but it's really not going to work. I mean, I understand if, someone, maybe try to kill themselves. Okay. That time you have to force them into that's like an acute kind of, we need all hands on deck. But if you got some stuff you're dealing with and you're not ready to deal with it, don't even waste your time to go to therapy. I'll be honest with you. So I did not have that stigma. However, the podcast that I do have, we joke about it. We peer pressure people. We peer pressure people to go to, peer pressure people to go to therapy. Oh my Lord. I swear.
Say that 4 times fast.
I swear it's only Mountain Dew. I swear. And so we're big advocates of that, and especially in men. And yeah, so that's kind of my story around therapy. I've never felt that stigma. But I know it does exist. I see it on the internet all the time. And yes, it's starting to go away, but it's still out there, especially in the Black community. Men in the Black community, man, it is like almost unheard of for therapy.
What do you do with your podcast? Because you said you peer pressure people into therapy.
You did it. Yes.
Yes. What can you do to try to help that issue, particularly with men in the Black community? Is that something that you have thought about or not yet?
A little bit. So my co-host has a Black daughter. He adopted her. And so that's always a topic for us in that community. We haven't done anything specifically, but what we try to do on the show is kind of normalize it. We have like one of our episodes a month is like a personal update. And one of our segments is a mental health update. And we always talk about it. So we are trying to normalize those, therapy in general. And we've had people reach out and it's amazing. Like our show isn't huge, but it's impactful. I mean, I think we've had 3 or 4 people. One person we didn't even know. They were a listener in New Jersey. Like, hey, I'm ready. I need some help. And it's not like we can do anything, but like, hey, this is who I suggest you call. And then we've had some local people in my city reach out. And there's one and it's going well. Like I get check-ins from her and I'm just like, yes, this is why we're doing this, because the more people in therapy, they get their shit straight, there's less assholes in the world. And that's a goal that we should all try to obtain.
I would like to see less assholes in the world.
Yes. So as far as the Black community, I don't know. I actually don't have a lot of Black friends. And that sucks. It's just, that's how it is. I don't know. That's how the cards were dealt. But I am excited because I do have somebody on I have like podcasts coming out my ass on my other show that I've had for like 3 years. And he's going to be a guest host, and he's a Black guy out of New York. And he's got like a gig podcast like me, but he talks a little bit about mental health in there. I picked up on one of his episodes. I'm like, oh boy, we're gonna get to know each other a lot. So I'm kind of excited. That's a complete sidebar, but as far as that goes, as far as like, the Black community, I don't know. I hope that people just listen and hear how positive we talk about therapy. It's hard work, don't get me wrong, but and that's how I hope we can impact people.
I am going to get back to this family bombshell. Don't think I've forgotten. But first, I do want to ask you quickly to talk to the people who are anti-therapy, anti-therapist. And maybe it's because they've never done it. Maybe it's because they had that one terrible therapist that most of us have had. I mean, I had a really bad therapist once, but I know that there are a lot of people out there who are just really resistant to going to therapy. Talk to those people for a minute.
So it's very odd to me, people that are anti-therapy. I mean, like, what is your reason behind it? Okay, if you had a bad experience, that's a reason. I get that. Like, but if you've never done it, why are you against it? Like, that's strange to me. But you do bring up a good point. You will not click with everyone. You should find someone that you have good chemistry with. But and I know it's hard. I think maybe that's probably the biggest reason people don't go to therapy, because they don't want to unlock the secrets or whatever. My mother-in-law currently, she's 72, and that woman will not go to therapy, and she needs, like, I shouldn't say everyone shouldn't have to go to therapy. I'm not saying everyone should, but she's one of them, right? Like, she is one of them, and she won't. She doesn't want to. I think she says she's fine or whatever. So I don't know what to tell the people that are listening. Like, I think you need to go if you're dealing with some issues, especially if you have trauma in your past. Because I'm telling you what, that stuff wires you in a messed up way. It just does. You respond to other people in a weird way, or in an uncomfortable way, or a harsh way, because of how your wires were, put together when you were a kid. So I don't know. If you're completely anti-therapy and have no reason, then you're ridiculous.
I love it. I love it. Don't sugarcoat it.
No. I mean, I don't. And when we talk about our show, I'm like, it's freaking hard. It is hard. You are going to be uncomfortable, but it's worth it. And I also say too, don't stick with that therapist just because you've talked to him for 6 sessions and you feel like you can't possibly do it again. I mean, if it's not clicking chemistry wise, you need to bail. Don't keep doing it just because you feel bad. They don't care. They get broken up with all the time. Just do it, because you're wasting your money. You're wasting your time. You don't have to be best friends with your therapist, but you guys gotta vibe a little,
Yes. And I just had a guest recently who equated it to a first date and said, if you only ever went on one first date in your life, we'd probably have a lot of single and miserable people out in the world, because every first date does not work. And that's why we move on to another person. And he said therapy was the same way. And I've never thought of it that way, but it's so true, is that we're willing to try out people in other types of relationships. So why aren't we always willing to try out different therapists if it's not working? So I love that you said, find somebody that clicks. Don't just stick around. Don't have that negative relationship with your therapist.
Yeah, everyone has this work ethic, and I'm guilty of it too. Like, nope, got to stick committed to it, got to stick through it. And you're like, no. You should always give it the college try. I think 1 and done on a therapist is too early. Maybe 3 sessions, you'll get the vibe by then. But man, if it's just not working in life, try something else. Just don't just go to the grind. Don't just keep working at it. It might get better, because it probably won't. Yeah.
I agree. Okay. Let's get back to the family bombshell. I want to hear what this was, and then we're going to unpack it.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm 35 and get remarried, and it's always been just with a relationship with my family. It's just like, it's just shitty, right? That we're always fighting. It's never right. One's mad at the other. I mean, it's terrible. No one wants to just be a family. Like, that blood is thicker than water is the stupidest thing ever. So over in the last year, I decided, my wife came to me finally and was like, listen, I can't do this anymore. Like, I cannot do this anymore. And we were always just kind of hanging on for the kids, right? Just because it's for the children, right? And I'm like, yeah. So why would I bring I'm trying to protect my children. Why would I bring them into this shit show of family? And so she was like, I just can't do it anymore. And so I decided to cut ties with everyone. My mom, I mean, she's had dementia for 2 years, so she really doesn't know what's going on. My dad, we talked about him, and my sisters. It just was terrible. And so, yeah, I cut everyone off this past November of 2020, and not in this dramatic way. I was just like, hey, these are my boundaries now. I'm sorry. We can't do this anymore. I don't know. It doesn't mean it has to be permanent, but for this point forward and until I don't know, it's not happening. So that happened, blah, blah, blah. And about a month later, I get a call from my sister, Nicole. She lives in New York. She's got 4 kids, married, and starts blowing up my phone, and I'm not picking it up. And then her husband calls and says, hey, you got to pick this up. And then finally I'm like, okay, whatever. Pick it up. Come to find out, my dad is not my sister's biological dad. I don't know why she decided to do a DNA test, but she decided to, and she asked my dad, and he agreed to it. She always had this feeling that she wasn't his. So I was like, oh my gosh, right? So I took the DNA test, and guess what? That's not my dad either.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I was like, I couldn't believe it. Like, I remember the lawn I was on treating when I got the phone call. Cause this was not a 23andMe. This was like a legit company where you send it to a lab. Like, they don't mess around. Like,
right.
It's legit. And I just remember that. And I kind of knew that was going to be the answer, but I kind of hoped in the back of my head. It was such a mental battle because, like, if I wasn't his, then it would give him an excuse for not putting his energy into us and ignoring the abuse and all that stuff. But then on the other hand, I'm like, what a piece of shit. Like, you know what I mean? Why would he still do that? And so, yeah, he officially is not my dad. And my middle sister refuses to get the DNA test. But the weird part is I'm the oldest, and my younger one, we're both not my dad's. So what does that tell you about the middle?
But she refuses.
She's created this fantasy life, like this great relationship with my mom. My dad and her are best friends now. It's crazy. It's so weird. Like, if you knew her outside of this little thing she's created, you'd be like, oh yeah. And she's a therapist too. So that's fun. I mean, isn't it true though? Most therapists are messed up, but I mean, yeah, that's what she does. And so she won't. She knows deep down. But do you want to hear my theory?
I do, because I have questions. So go.
My theory is my dad could not have kids, and my mom was not going to be living in this, because we call ourselves the mini Bible Belt over here in West Michigan. It's like there's a church on every freaking block. Like, you know, she was not going to have a family that didn't have any kids. And I think she just slept with people and got pregnant. And my dad said he only found out a couple of years ago. That's bullshit. That's such bullshit. Like, I think he's known our whole life. And yeah, I don't know who my dad is either. I did the 23andMe. I had one good lead of a first cousin. Talked to him, kind of tried to figure something out because it's the first cousin on my would be my dad's side, but we couldn't really narrow it down. So I don't really know. And I'm not pursuing it.
Were you able to figure out if you and Nicole have the same dad or not?
We don't. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
For sure you don't.
I forgot to verify. I forgot to tell you that. We don't. No, they study the DNA. We had to pay for another test for them to do that. And they're like, nope, not the same dad. So not only my mom beat me up, she was a whore. I know it just sounds funny when I say that, but I mean, I'm over it now. It's been, almost a year that I found out. So, or maybe 3/4 of a year, but so I'm thinking, what did I experience? I mean, so I'm 45, my sister's, so she's 4 or 5 years younger than me. Like I was around when that was like, I probably could have saw some stuff and I don't remember it, of course. But I'm like, oh my gosh. So that was like the nail in the coffin. And just to wrap that up, I did actually circle back with my dad. And I was like, all right, I know I set this boundary, but I'm willing to talk about it. And I asked if I could talk to him. He goes, well, you can talk to me, but I'm not answering questions. I was like, all right, Dad, have a good one. And that was the end of it. So
did that change the relationship between you and Nicole?
So out of all of them, Nicole and I struggled the most early on, but then rallied before I set that boundary. And honestly, there was not really any ill will with Nicole. I just thought it was best if we just separated. So yeah, we talked for a while when that first was hot and heavy. Like we were texting every day, and then it kind of went every other day, and then once a week, and then kind of just stopped. And I just sent her a text and said, hey, I'm setting this boundary back. I love you. I just think it's best. Our family has been tortured and tormented with all this stuff. And it's, I'm here if shit hits the fan, but I think it's just best that we don't communicate. So, and she was like, okay.
What was it like to set those boundaries? Because I know what you said earlier, blood is thicker than water, and how that's bullshit. I completely agree with you. But a lot of people, for whatever reason, believe that, and they let that negativity and toxicity remain. So how did it feel to finally say, like, nope, I'm getting out of this? So
you hear all the story, right? And so like if you had a friend in your life like that, like just that drama, you would have cut them out so fast. But like you said, the family, it's like, oh, we got to be family. It was actually really hard. I still feel guilty almost on a daily basis. And that sucks. I shouldn't feel guilty, but I do. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think about my family and be like, I mean, like my middle sister, Megan, I don't feel that right now because she really hurt us pretty bad a couple of times recently. But Nicole and even my dad, those two I think about the most. I mean, yeah, he's not my biological dad, but I mean, obviously he raised us. I had everything I needed. I don't want you to think I lived in this like dilapidated home. I mean, I went to private school. I had the nice shoes. I had everything I needed, but I didn't have the emotional love, which I probably would have gave up all that other crap for the like if I could have had just a poor family that we all got along and weren't messed up, I would have totally taken that. But yeah, it was really hard to set, and it's easy to keep, but I think about it almost on a daily basis that I did the wrong thing.
I don't think you did the wrong thing.
I appreciate that.
I do want to point out, though, what you just said, that, you didn't want for things necessarily as you grew up, things. So you went to private school, you had all the cool stuff. I think it's important for people to really pay attention to that, because we think a lot of times that the abused children are, oh, it's a poor family, they had nothing. And that's not the case. It really can happen to absolutely anybody. So I'm glad that you did kind of make that point and make that known that, as far as finances, you guys were okay, but you would have traded that for love and true affection.
Yeah, because what happened to me as a child has messed my relationships up still to this day. And we're not just talking like, female relationships. I mean, male relationships. I have anger issues, which I've worked on, but I'm a dick. I am. And it's like, sometimes that's good in life, right? Sometimes I stand on my 2 feet and I say, no, this is not right. You need to knock it off. And like, I'll defend people and stand up for people. But there's a lot of times where I shouldn't have said that. And I pop my mouth off, and my mouth gets me in trouble more than anything in the world. And that's super frustrating. But I mean, again, my therapist always says, like, you have these good things in you that protect your family, protect yourself. But yeah, we got to work on that. Know when to drop that stuff and when to be appropriate with that. So that's what we're working on.
Do you believe that you are that good person who does good things?
I think I'm about 70% there. Yeah, I mean, I still have guilt of the stuff that I did that was wrong. You know what I mean? And so I would say 70% there. I think I got some work to do in that realm of just you're doing good. And of course my therapist tells me that, but I'm like, whatever. That's like, well, if I did have a normal functioning mom, that's like your mom telling you good job. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, great, Ma, thanks. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But I hope to get to that point someday, but I'm definitely not there yet.
But you're working on it.
I'm working on it. Yeah.
How hard is that to work on? Because a lot of people do say that forgiving yourself for whatever is often the hardest person to forgive. What do you think about that?
I think it shows up in how hard I am on myself with everything in life, with my podcasting. I wouldn't say I'm a perfectionist, but I really beat myself up. I mean, like if I'm editing a show and it's just taking too long, or I can't get this edit, like I really, beat myself up on it. And I think that's a reflection of the stuff that I kind of went through. But I don't know. It's tough to answer that. I don't know what I don't know how to work on that, to be honest with you, right? Like, how do you work on, it's basically self-love. You know what I mean? How do you work on that? I'm asking you.
This is unfair.
I know,
because this is my interview.
So listen, I'm a podcaster. I flip the script all the time, and they're always like, "What? Seriously?" And I'm like, "Come on, like, I just want to hear your opinion."
Fine, let me. Okay, how do I work on that? It is hard. I'll agree with you. It's rough. I try to give myself grace, but I think I struggle with it as well. I am also in therapy, and I think for me, it's probably about focusing on the good things that I do currently and letting other things go. I tend to beat myself up a lot for, other people that have harmed me, but it's still my fault. I let that happen. I let that go on. Why didn't I XYZ? So that's what I blame myself for a lot and have trouble forgiving myself. I think this is part of how I do it, is by talking to other people and kind of learning from them and giving them a platform. But it also, I learn something new from every single show that I record and every single person that I talk to. Stopping the negative self-talk.
Yeah.
Which is rough.
I bet everyone struggles with that. Even if you've lived I always, put in quotes, normal life, it's still hard to do. I think as humans, I feel like we're built for negativity. It's the weirdest thing. Like, it's hard to, if you could, every day, if you got home from work and someone asked you, what are the 3 negative things that happened today? And you could rattle those off so quick, but then they give me one positive and they're like, you know what I mean? We just always go to the negativity. And I don't know why that is as humans. That's frustrating.
I feel like social media has definitely affected that because there's so much negativity swirling around there. I mean, I love it for connections and all that stuff, meeting people that you never would have been able to meet otherwise. But it's so easy to get sucked into the negativity, I feel like, as well. So it's rough to deal with.
Yeah, the social media, that could be a topic for another day. But yeah, it's especially Facebook. I'm the same way. I've become just a lurker and I just use it for my shows. I don't ever comment on anyone's stuff unless it's show related. Like I hide people all the time. I'm like, unfollow. Don't need your negativity. I'm tired of you posting about the election or vaccines or masks. I'm like, bip, 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 bip. So I find myself being on TikTok a lot more. I love TikTok so much.
I got to get there. I mean, I'm on there, but not really. So
I don't really post. I'm just, again, a lurker. There is some negativity on TikTok too, but there's much more joy on there for me. At least the algorithm shows me funny cat stuff or, just hilarious stuff. And every once in a while you see something that's crazy, but it's been a joy for me through this pandemic. It's been really helping me get through and stay off Facebook. So
I need to get on TikTok and look for, I'm not really a cat person, but funny dog stuff.
I'm not a cat person either. I just think the videos are fun. I'm a dog, cat, dog, you name it, llama, like chickens. I mean, it's all hilarious. I love it so much. I wish I could be creative to create TikToks because they seem like a lot of work, but it seems fun. I'm not that creative when it comes to that.
Maybe once we figure out how to get sprints back for adults, we can then move on to TikTok creation.
Maybe we just start putting it on TikTok. Like, let's you get 10 people in your area. I'll get 10 people in my area. We'll make TikToks and we're bringing back sprints for the adults.
Yes, I'm in. I'm so in. So I want to talk a little bit about your podcast. And I know you have 3 million, but specifically, I want to talk about the one where you focus on faith, mental health issues, and then difficult conversations. What inspired you to start that?
So to back up a little bit, 6 months before that started, I started my gig economy podcast, which was named something else. So that was back in December of 2017. So about June, one of the hosts of that show, we kind of connected, and I really just connected with him. He was a deep thinker and very emotional and tenderhearted. And I don't know about you. I've not really had a relationship like that in my 45 years. Like all my guy friends, it was like superficial, like, whatever, dick jokes, blah, blah, blah. It's fun, right? There's a time in every guy's life from 20 to 30. Like that's just what happens. And not a lot of deep stuff, but I was pining for that, I think. And I was like, him and I connected, and we're total opposites. Like we call him NPR Ben because he just has that NPR voice. And today we're going to talk about, like that. And I'm like in your face, and like, so we're like yin and yang, you know what I mean? And well, that can be a challenge for relationships. I said, you know what? I need, we started becoming friends, and I was like, I need to talk about some deeper stuff. Like we both love podcasting, and that's kind of how it started. And it's evolved. I mean, we just recorded episode 150. So you can imagine it's gone from he was like anti-therapy to like he's done with therapy because he's been going for 2 years and he's now ready to work on his shit. So like that's the stuff that's been going on. So that's kind of how Threads kind of started, just the threads that tie us together. And, we are both Christians. Now it is definitely not a Christian podcast. So I don't want people to think that. But we talk about uncomfortable conversations, mental health, and then faith is a part of it too. So, yeah.
Tell me what wellness advice, other than going out and running a half marathon, what wellness advice would you give out to people in general?
I think for one thing that I struggle with is being alone in my thoughts. I would recommend people spend, and this is hard for me, like 5 minutes being quiet and just not on your phone, just chilling somewhere and just looking outside. The other piece would be spending time in nature. I have been, not just with the running, but we got a dog a couple years ago, and our other dogs were lazy and fat and they never exercised and they passed away, unfortunately, as dogs do. And we got this pup and I'm like, we're walking. And so that's been really helpful too. And you can't walk with your phone though. That's the key. You gotta, okay, you can have it on you, but you got to turn all notifications off and you can't listen to anything. And those two things have been super helpful in the last couple of years to kind of like self-care, keep me a little grounded. Yeah.
Talk to me about relationship advice.
Oh, geez. What, with women or in general?
Let's go in general.
In general. The thing that I have to work on the most is, and this seems simple, but it's just listening. I'm such in a hurry to get my point out. Podcasting has been helping that, right? Because in a podcast, we can't talk at the same time. It just sounds like shit. So it's like you have to wait till the other person talks. And so that's been helpful. But one of my biggest things is I don't know if you ever heard the messaging app Telegram. I've had it for years. Mm-hmm. Pre-Trump, y'all, pre-Trump. Everyone went to Telegram because, that was I had friends because Telegram tells you when your contacts join. I'm like, yeah, no, I've had it for over 5 years. So don't think I joined because of that. That is not the reason. But anyways, it's voice messages. And like I sent you one today on Messenger because I hate texting. I drive all the time for work for all my jobs. So I'm, thousands and thousands of miles a month. And so I leave the voice messages. And I know you shouldn't even do that in the car, but come on, let's be
real.
It is what it is. So I can basically lock in the microphone and record while I'm driving down the road and just hit send one button. So anyways, I cannot listen to a whole message from my friends without responding. And it's, oh man, I get egg in my face all the time because I'll say something and I finish the message. I'm like, son of a bitch, he said it in the message and now I'm caught. But anyways, I guess my advice would be with relationships is just pause for a second, let them finish what they're saying. Take some time to think about it and to analyze it, which I'm saying this because these are the things I'm working on because this is what I want to do. I'm not perfect by any means, but that's what that would be my advice is just take a pause and make sure you're listening to what they're actually saying and not trying just to get your point across when they stop talking.
We have a little saying here on this podcast, and it's not unique to here, but it's progress, not perfection. Oh, so it's okay. None of us are perfect. And it's about taking the steps that we can to learn and grow. That's
amazing. Progress, not perfection. That's great.
It's going on a t-shirt.
Yes, do it.
Yes. People are going to be commenting right now because they're dying for that tank top. Well, we have talked about some pretty heavy topics, and I don't want to end that way. So before I let you go, we're going to talk about something super fun to both of us, and that is tattoos.
Yes.
So as you can't see them today, but I'm covered in tattoos. I love tattoos. I collect tattoos. I have my next one scheduled.
Me too.
Okay, so
January.
Me too. Where are you getting yours? Like geographically, not physically.
I thinking probably on this arm right here or back here. I'm not sure. I know that doesn't help for listeners. Like my underside, was that my forearm, my right forearm, and then back by my elbow, possibly.
Elbow.
I don't know yet.
Tough.
Yes.
So tell me, what do you have planned for this next tattoo?
So what I try to do with my ink is just different experiences in my life. So I have a giant tree on my arm. I have a big guy on my forearm with a skull and a beard, because like the beards are I've had a beard for, I don't know, maybe a decade. I have, my son has autism, my youngest son. So I have that, the puzzle pieces. I got all kinds of stuff. So my current kick is podcasting stuff. So I just got about a month ago an old school, I don't know if you can see it, but it's the old school microphone back in the day. I got that. And then the next one I have I love skulls. I don't know why. Like I'm kind of a metalhead a little bit, or hard rock, so I guess that fits. But there's this picture of a guy that I've seen, or not a guy, but a skull with headphones on. Yeah. So I kind of I may get something like that. And I also was a beekeeper for about 4 years, honeybees. So I want to get something with that. So like my arms tell the story of like my hobbies and what I've done and stuff like that. So yeah. What about you?
That's cool. Well, so I have one of those microphones as well.
You do?
I do. Mine is with a phoenix. So I have the phoenix, and it's kind of holding that old school microphone. I'll shoot you a picture of that. My next one, I'm not sure yet. So it's going to be my outer forearm.
Okay.
I have a Hanya mask here, and then I have some words and designs here on my arm. So I'm going to try to tie that all together. So it will be black and gray, geometric. That's all I've gotten so far.
Okay.
I'm one of those people that I have really general ideas, and then usually a few days before it just hits me. And I'm like,
really?
this is what I want. And then I email the artist, who I'm sure is annoyed with me because I gave him like another idea 5 months ago to book the appointment, full well knowing that was never what I was going to get.
Yeah.
So he should be used to it by now, though. Sorry, Joey. It's
my question
not going to be whatever I told you.
Have you been able to stick with the same artist? Because those guys bounce around all the time.
They do. So I do have a couple different ones, but two that are pretty regular. One is in Vegas, and the other used to be in Vegas and now is in Salt Lake City. So I travel kind of, Well, because then it's like a vacation.
Yes.
Work it all together. Yes.
Yeah, that's how my wife and I do it too. She's got some ink as well, and so we'll do it like not this last time because it didn't work out, but the time before that we did like a weekend, like a staycation in the city. Yeah, stayed at like a nice hotel downtown, and then went and got tattoos.
See, I love that because I will get bangers while traveling.
Okay.
So I've gotten tattooed. And luckily for me, I have found good artists because it can be iffy when you go in and get a banger. But Pennsylvania, Kentucky, Scottsdale, Arizona.
Really?
I've rolled in and found, like, thank goodness, some really good people to just throw a little something here and there.
Wow.
I mean, we can always use another tattoo, right?
I know. It's addicting.
Yes.
Do you have any ones you hate?
They're covered up.
Oh, okay.
So, yes, I don't hate them, but like my first tattoo was Hobbs the tiger.
I swear that's on like a billion people's body.
Yeah. And why at the age of 17, I thought, this is what I want for the rest of my life. But I did think that, and he is there, but he is now covered. So nothing that is visible do I hate, because they all tell a story.
My first one was the Superman tattoo. Like, what a dumbass.
Is it on your arm?
Yes. Yeah, I haven't got it covered up yet. I don't know. It's somewhat of brighter colors, so that's going to be a challenge. But I'm like, this was stupid. The rest of them I'm fine with, but that one was stupid.
And why is it the things that we end up hating have like the boldest line work and the brightest colors?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing, but anyways, because then we're like, oh, you think you're strong? I'm like, apparently I did like 20 years ago, but definitely I just want to have a beer with you. I don't want to fight.
I love it. Yeah. Love it. Any other like tattoos planned for down the road?
Not really. I'd like to get my logos of my podcast. I haven't done that yet. Like my buddies are just like, why would you put that on there? I'm like, because it's my story. Yeah. Are they going to last forever? Probably not. At some point they will come to an end. I am a realist. I know that's going to happen. Maybe not, but maybe Spotify will pick me up and I will be a, Joe Rogan-esque, but I doubt it.
You never know.
You never know. So I'd like to get that done. And I'd like to do something with my kids. I want their names on me somewhere. So like my wife and I won't put our names on each other, but we did get matching coffee tattoos. So I wrote, I love you more than coffee. And she wrote that same. And so I have her writing in there and then like kind of a cup of coffee. And then she has one that's got some like lipstick on the cup and stuff like that. So that was our couple's tattoo. But yeah, something with the kids' names. I feel like I feel bad that I haven't done that. I mean, I love them to death, but I'm just like, I haven't thought of, I want something cool. Like, I don't want to just have their names. You know what I mean? But
just put them around the Superman symbol.
Oh, geez. I thought about, I have this giant tree, but I don't know how I would place them on there because it's kind of a creepy tree. And I got to get some grass in there somewhere. I mean, I've done lawns for 20 years. Like I need to get some actual grass filled in somewhere. I don't know.
Not by the creepy tree.
You don't think so?
Well, I just feel like if it's a creepy tree, like I don't know that it needs some like plush lawn around it.
See, what I need to do is I want to get like a honeybee and some honeycomb. I need to integrate the lawn or some clover because bees love clover, even though I hate clover and kill it on a daily basis because that's my job. I know. Isn't that weird? I was a beekeeper that sprayed pesticides that sometimes allegedly can hurt bees. That's a story for another day. But yeah, I think I need to get something like that. That's actually a good idea. Like the grass by the tree that would be kind of weird. Yeah. No.
Yeah. I wouldn't do the creepy tree grass. Jason, where can people find you? Not in person, unless you want that. It's entirely up to you. But where, if people want to connect with you, connect with your podcasts, I don't know, get some lawn care done. Yeah. Where can they find you?
The best place to reach us for our show, Threads Podcast Life Unfiltered, is threadspodcast.com. That is the best place. You should always send your people to your website. That is what you should do. So it's pretty easy, threadspodcast.com. You'll be able to find everything about Threads. I am working on a website for myself. Like, do you own your own name domain?
No, I used to, and it might still be floating out there, but yeah, I need to do that too. Yeah, you got a lot of work to do, Jason.
I know. Like, I got like my one podcast, Threads, and then gig economy, and then I have a production company, and then I just have all this stuff. And it, like when I'm on a show like this, I want, maybe somebody's interested in the gig podcast, but that's not what we talked about. So I'll say, hey, just go to my webpage at, jason.tieri.com or whatever, and you can find everything out. But for this particular show, threadspodcast.com.
Perfect. Jason, it has been an absolute blast talking to you today. I absolutely appreciate you sharing so much of your story and really having fun with me this evening. So thank you so much.
I appreciate it. This is only the third time I've been on a show as a guest. And this, of course, has been the most fun. I love this because I didn't have to do any prep. I was like, little nervous at the beginning, but I'm like, I can just sit down and just do, and I don't have to edit it and I don't have to promote it. Well, I will promote it, but you know what I mean when it comes out.
Yes, and you crushed it. You crushed it as a guest.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I really hope you guys enjoyed my conversation with Jason as much as I did. I truly appreciate how he was willing to talk about what he went through as a child and the times when he wasn't so great in his own relationships. I'm also so glad that he's been able to set boundaries and keep them for the good of himself and his family. So remember, until next week, you are strong enough and you are worth it. Thank you for listening to the Strong Enough podcast. You can find us on your favorite podcast platform by searching Strong Enough. And on YouTube, we're available on the Spear Talk channel. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Strong Enough Pod. If you have suggestions for an upcoming episode or a future guest, please reach out at strongenoughpod@gmail.com. Remember, you are worth it.